everyone, my name is Qian and I work for Intel. Currently my job is for the DPDK performance testing and the CI testing. And as Thomas said, for him the most priority thing is the CI. So today we will talk about the CI and performance testing. Okay. This is today's agenda. So actually, there's two parts. First is the CI, what we do now, and what's the comparison between the Linux Foundation project and our DPDK project, and also our thoughts for the improvement. And the next thing is about the performance testing and the plan to publish the performance numbers. So, okay. This is currently we are doing the perpetual build. So each developers, when you submit a patch, then you will have a report, the build report, covering 8 different configurations, such as GCC, ICC, 32-bit, 64-bit, and the CLAN, the debug, and the share. So different configurations, and each day we may merge many patches, so we will have the daily build on the master branch to cover more different configurations, such as different OS, different compilers, and different the kernel versions. So it's about the build, the perpetual build, and the daily build. And we also have the daily functional testing, cover the basic function, the basic NIC, the NAND is widely used, and we'll cover the different OS and different compiler and different target. So it's for the daily regression, the functional testing. We will cover 3 platforms and totally about 217 test cases total. And you can see here, we have the build system. We are using the VM to have different target, different configurations. And we will have the DPD code and then distribute it to different VMs to do the build. And as to the functional testing, we have this setup. We have a pair of machines. One is DUT, the device under test. Another is the tester. Will generate the traffic. The software traffic generator, we are using the SCAPI to generate the traffic. And we are running DTS. It's called the DPDK test framework. And it's our automation framework, just like the VSPerf for the vSwitch and the CSAT for the maybe robot framework for the CSAT. So each community has its own test automation framework. And then it will just have the connection between the traffic generator and to the DUT port, and let the port doing some testing such as SPMD, layer 2, layer 3, or the very basic functional testing. So, any questions? This is a quick overview of our release testing. Maybe someone don't know that there is a team dedicated for the DPDK release. In each release, we will spend much time on verifying the different OS, different NICs, different configurations for the overall DPDK cases. But of course, we are doing the Intel NIC check. We will not cover other companies and other IBM or different architecture. So it's more like the DPDK Intel validation results for each release cycle. And you can see that we will cover different NICs, different platforms. For all the results, we will publish in the release notes. So if you check carefully for the release notes in 16.04 or 16.07, you will see all the tested NICs and tested platforms, so the information you can get. And for the tested cases, we will cover the NIC features such as the basic IX, TX, and then the offload features and the VXLAN and the different NIC features, as well as we will cover the vhost and the virtual testing without OVS, just the pure DPDK vhost versatile, such as vhost reconnect and different features, as well as the performance testing. Okay, and we also cover different patch tests in different cycles. You can see the number that we tested more and more patches past the different release. And we are also trying our efforts to make sure to make the release testing cycle more short. That you can see from the 5 days for the 2.2 and 4 days for each RC and 3 days for the 16.07. So, yeah. And as to bugs, it's mainly more about the Intel-related bugs, since currently we don't have the central bug system. And that's the one maybe I want to talk about this table. It's fortunate that we have made the decision to move to the Linux Foundation. So I just put the Intel, it's internal Intel, and the DPDK.org, it's for everyone to see for the community. And the right one is the Linux Foundation. I just use the FIDO project as an example. So you can see that the highlighted one is that I think maybe we can discuss and do better. For the schedule tool, we don't have the public schedule tool, but internally we have Jenkins, and almost Linux Foundation project will have the Jenkins as the schedule tool. So I think maybe we need one. And for the code review and patch checking, we are using Patchwork to track the patch status and using mailing list to do the code review. But Linux Foundation is using Garrett, and just now John mentioned the Garrett, but we don't have a discussion, but maybe we can discussion here. Actually, when I first know Garrett, it's about 5 years ago when I worked in the mobile phone project, and it's an Android OS development in Intel, and thousands of developers joined the project, different domains such as audio, video, modem, and different domains, maintenance. So it's a very huge project, but they are using Garrett to manage the patches, manage the CIs. There is also a dedicated team, I guess located in France for the CI work, maybe a 20 people size, since it's a big project. So, yeah, so here the Garrett can apply to the very complex project for the code review. So maybe we can talk about later. And actually, I want have some discussion here that with all of the audience are the developers. So your views on the code review tools such as mailing list for current and the code review tools such as Garrett. So which one do you prefer? So maybe we can discuss later. And you can see that we have no bug track system now for the DPDK community. And FIDO using Jira, and I know some Linux kernel using the Bugzilla. So, and we don't have the regression performance not published, and we don't have the open test lab, and we don't have any place to stay report. So people even think that maybe there is no performance testing or functional testing has done, but we have done, but we don't have place to report out, except the mailing list. So, okay. Yeah, it's example that how the FIDO or the Linux Foundation project doing the CI. As a developer, first I just git pull the code, and then I work on my patch, and then I push to the branch. Then I met a field about the build, so will be verified. +1 means variable -1 means you have build field, and then you will rework, and then you will see that build path. then in Gerrit it will call the verified +1. And later, in the meantime, there is reviewers. You can add reviewers to review patches. For example, I have 2 reviewers and they access my patch. They can have +1 for one and +1 for another one. So if you get verified +1 as well as reviewed +2, it's ready for your patch to merge. So it's very clear for maintainer to check the patch status, past build and past review on the website. So okay. And for the daily regression, they always using the Jenkins to schedule the daily regression performance testing and the functional testing, and publish the results on the website. And it's much easier for people to check the results on the website. And they can make the connections with Jira, the bug system, with Gerrit. For example, I have a bug in the Bugzilla, and then I can link my patch in Gerrit to the Jira. There is some linkage in the Gerrit to the Jira that they can have some connections. This patch is fix this bug, and if the patch applied, the bug status can be changed to such as implemented. So it's kind of some connections between the bug system and the Gerrit, the code review system. So it's a sample of the CI of the Linux Foundation, the FIDO. And so from the comparison that we have some suggestions that we'd better to group CI test as a team for the community testing. Not only until, I think as Thomas said, it's a community effort. We need every different, for example, the ARM, the PowerPC, different mallocs, different NICs to put in place in the community efforts for the CI. And we can enable the Jenkins as a CI tester tool. And we can also using the Gerrit for the code review, but I think it's on the discussion, and I hope later we can have a discussion here. And we can have Bugzilla to track the bugs. Sometimes we found bugs we assign to Intel developers, but it's not owned by them, so it's not fair. So we need to find a more public bug system to let all the community know the bugs and the features. And also, it's better to have the public test lab that we can put our machines or different architectures machines to the same lab. So, and currently, we are also doing some CI enhancement jobs. As to the per patch build, we are doing some enhancement. Currently, we are doing the per patch set. For example, you have 10 patches in one patch set. We will do the 10 patch in one just for the patch set build, not for each patch to build. Currently, we are doing enhancement to check each patch can pass the build. And we currently apply only on the master branch, but currently we have the different repos such as master and the next volatile, next net, and next crypto, so 4 repos. So we met issues that when you apply the patch to the master, maybe it's not applicable. That if you send a mail that it's not applicable, people will shout that, oh, my patch is going to the next, for example, next volatile, why you put it into the master. So currently we are doing the enhancement to check each repo. If first go to the master, if not, then go to the next volatile. If not, then go to the next net, and then go to the next crypto. So it's not very efficient, but we need to do the pull check all the different repo to make sure. Okay, and actually when you send a patch, and some developers don't want to receive the mails, and some may want. So I guess maybe we can have an option check that if you want to receive the build report, then maybe you can just check it, and if you don't like it, you can just default maybe not sending the report to the developers, but if you want to get it, you can subscribe the report. And currently we are publish the data for the 3 platforms, and we want to enhance it to public more than 10 platforms results. So this is for the performance testing, and actually we are doing the NIC performance testing, such as the basic layer 2, layer 3 performance testing, and also the single core performance testing. As to the NIC features, we will cover such as VEB, the VXLAN, the flow director. It's small, depends on the features. And also the vHOST volatile performance testing, we will cover the basic, the IXTS and different paths for the vHOST volatile, and the NIC to VM, the PVP, the VM to VM. Maybe it's more, and the scaling is on our list. And some others such as Qian and some packet processing and some integration such as with OVS and with VPP, but it's just not so regularly. So it's the setup for the NIC performance setting, since many people will encounter that for DPDK. We have the traffic generator, and there are 2 ports. Normally we are using Qian as the software as a traffic generator, and we have 2 NICs, 40 gig NICs, and we are using 1 port per NIC to have the maximum throughput, and and always the traffic is bidirectional. So for the test setup. Okay, and this is our proposal for public all the performance numbers to the community. Since we have the decision to leave foundation, so we can forget about the first option. We can focus on the second option. That as to the test case configurations, we can share our BKMs, our scripts to the community for the test case definition and the automations. And as to the test infrastructure, just like the FIDO project, we can have an open performance lab that we can send all the machines to the lab, and such as the traffic generator. I'm not sure Qian, maybe it's too expensive, but it's very precise for the performance testing. And also the software packaging and the T-Rex as a software traffic generator. I personally prefer to using software packet generator to have the performance regression, since we can't afford so many hardware Qian ports to do the regression performance testing. And we can also have many external NICs, not only Intel NICs. And test reports, we can have a report center to publish all the numbers, so people can see the numbers. You can see if there is any regression or any jobs. And maybe we can send out the weekly reports, or monthly maybe too long, and daily maybe too frequent. Maybe weekly is a good choice. Yeah, I've done. So, any questions? Okay. So, if no questions, I wonder. Oh, okay, sorry.
It's not really a question, it's like 2 comments. One, there's still some patches which your cases will fail, specifically those patches which are built upon another patch set. which has not yet been merged. But I'm not stating that we should handle those cases. It's like all virtually impossible to handle. Second case being, if you're asking about the opinion, yes, Gerrit sounds much better because, okay, I wouldn't say that I have used Gerrit much. Patch through the mailing list, it's cumbersome. It's very cumbersome. I mean, right now the issues with we face is the multiple series are going out. We have, in fact, if I remember the mempool patches, the like 17 series. If you keep tracking the patches through all what has happened, what has not happened, you'll notice that things which were commented in patch 9 all the way flew back to patch 11 and yet they were missing. So if we keep doing things on the mailing list, we are going to lose a lot of the stuff. So yeah, two things. One, first, not all patches can be accepted, and two, I prefer the Gerrit system.
Okay, okay, thank you. Anyone has some comments for the Gerrit or the... yeah, okay, next one.
Thank you. So I have used Gerrit for years, and my opinion is that it decreases the project quality in the end, because you receive a lot of mails saying there is a change, so you have to go to the browser. So in the end, the people won't go and see the code, the exchanges, the discussion about the patch. So my view is that it decreases the project quality, and it's difficult as a maintainer to work with Gerrit. That's my opinion.
Okay, so you vote the mailing list for the...
I prefer mailing list.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay.
So basically, you need not integrating the mailing list to Gerrit. What you were suggesting is that the mailing list should not be integrated with Gerrit then. Or actually, the other way around. There's a way that we can have the mailing list integrated with Gerrit, and Gerrit sends out, so people send out mail on the mailing list itself. They are posted back to Gerrit. So people do that stuff as well. At least in my organization, we do not use Gerrit, we use Stash, and that way we have picked it up. So we send out a mailing list, a mail on the mailing list. It is linked back to the Stash server. Stash in turn checks into the Jira server. So that model still works fine. You can opt out of the mails. Yes, mail burst is a pretty bad thing. It discourages people to go back again and again to the website, but you can opt out of those things as well. This is what my opinion is.
Hi, Qian.
Yeah. Okay.
Any plan on the DTS? We know that DTS already open sourced.
Yeah, so, DTS open sourced, yeah.
So is there anything about that?
DTS is open sourced, and no matter it's in Linux Foundation or DPDK.org, you can also git clone the code and run it. So I don't think any changes for that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'd like to comment on the Gerrit issue. My experience with all these web systems, I don't have experience with Gerrit, but anything like Redmine, Jira, GitLab, anything, it always goes to a situation when some people use it and some people don't. I personally don't like it because I have to go to some browser, click somewhere, use the mouse. It's not very nice. The email has one very nice feature. It always works. Even on a mobile phone, anywhere, it always works. So that's why I would vote email. And another thing, there is the project Linux kernel, and they use only emails. And until we reach the size of such a project, do we need anything else than email if they can live with it?
Yeah, actually, I know many kernel projects are using the mailing list it's very easy and just at hand you can just reply the mails. And for me, that if you are using the mailing list for review, you will have the email spam that you will receive maybe hundreds of mails one day, and some mails is that's not interesting for you or for me. Yeah. So for the mailing list, it will not trigger the build, but for the Gerrit, it can trigger build automatically. For the mailing list, when we're doing the CIs, we kind of the polling mode driver, where just listen. If there is a patch will coming, we are doing the polymer driver. And if we are using the Gerrit, it's more like an event trigger. And when you submit the patch, it will trigger a build and trigger any other things. And you will have your own space for the review. You will not bother other people's. For example, I only focus on these patch reviews. I just want to see this kind of patches. I will not receive other mails. So it's kind of much clean for the email box, and it's automatically triggers the CIs, not like the mailing list. It's just
Yeah, just I think a number of us feel that we're getting an awful lot of emails from DPDK.org. So in the spirit of throwing out suggestions, which I seem to be doing a bit of today, I'm just wondering how people feel about maybe the idea of having different mailing lists for each of the different subtrees, for instance. So you could have a separate Next mailing list for networking patches, a separate one for VirtIO vhost patches, which I would ignore because I don't look at that much, and one maybe for, I don't know, example applications, and then the main mailing list for everything else. So what do people think of that idea? Would it help reduce spam while making sure that people still get the mails that they're interested in and not more?
I can understand that suggestion from a DPDK developer point of view, where you have your own specific topic. But as a consumer of DPDK, I'm interested in any movement in any of the areas we are using. I'm usually not interested in the details, so I'm not on the mailing list because there's too much traffic on it. If the patch traffic could be moved to a patch system instead, and preferably I can hear from some of the patch users that they would prefer a system that not only has a web-based GUI, but also has an email interface, so they can interact with the patch system through email.
So from my side, as somebody who's really a consumer for DPDK and also basically doing code reviews on Gerrit. Initially I was not a great fan of Gerrit, but now I'm a bit used to it. So a few comments. First, for me it's really big effort to follow the mailing list, and sometimes people are asking me why we are not providing feedback to the DPDK community. We are not providing feedback because we are really not able to follow the discussions, because the traffic on the mailing list is huge. So also from my side, I'm not interested in one PMD. So even if we split the stuff to, I don't know, multiple things, I have the same problems. There is still high volume of emails coming to the mailing list, which I'm not able to process. So, and if I'm not able to dedicate, I don't know, 3-4 days time to really process the email, it grows so big that at the end I just go there and I delete everything, right? So that is the main the reason why I don't feel that I am up to speed with what's going on with the community, what are the new stuff, and I would like some solution to that problem. With regards to the Gerrit, for people who really want to use the CLI, there is a git review command, which is basically interacts with Gerrit. You can list all the reviews, you can download, and you can upload everything to the CLI. So really for using Gerrit, you don't need to use WebGUI at all.
In context of the separate mailing list, so what I was wondering is what happens in cases when the patch hits most of the areas. For example, a patch was recently published which was hitting the EAL as well as changing all the PMDs. At those places, it will start creating some issues, I think. Yeah, I'm not a fan of split mailing lists in that sense.
One of the issues that I run into is trying to keep track of all the different pieces and all the changes that happen in all the emails that show up on there. And a lot of times people cut out the emails, and I'll have to go back further in history to find all the details that's in that email. Whereas if I'm in one particular, like they'll keep a history of all that, and they'll tell me when that's done. And I can actually then look at the code and see where they've made comments and so forth, even in a more real-time fashion. So I'm not a big fan of the email patch set. I don't know, I think it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it'll get more complicated, and yes, people that are dedicated to looking at the list will be able to follow it, but I don't see how they can. I don't see how Bruce does it or Thomas or anything.
Just one thing. So a lot of people have said that, you know, we would like a CSID sort of model of continuous integration. You know, one of the key points of that is that it needs to be triggered by a system like Gerrit. I don't think it would function very well, or I don't know if Marek, you may have some comment on that. But so if we do want, you know, a CSID type of system, we're probably going to have to adopt a Gerrit patch triggering type of scenario.
My question there is, if there are people who talked about systems where the mailing list triggers something into Gerrit, that doesn't mean that we actually have to use Gerrit for the reviews. I mean, once it goes into Gerrit, Gerrit can then trigger Jenkins before. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. I'd try and solve the mailing list or code view in Gerrit, that as a separate issue. I would assume we should be able to find some solution to the continuous integration based off mailing list if we have to.
Personally, Bruce, I think that's just propagating an old thought process and an old model. I think Gerrit will give us a better, Gerrit will give you a better model. It'll track the patches much easier. Patchwork kind of does it, but not quite. But it's all in one spot. The reviews and the tracking are all done in one spot. And I like that, to be able to go there and look for it and see it. And I'm trying not to say that the patch list hasn't worked. It has worked, but a lot of patches get forgotten about, and a couple of mine have done that way. But in Gerrit, they're listed there in the order in which they were done and dealt with that way. And I don't know how it gets lost in the patch in the email lists. So I'm not really for it. I don't think it works.
Yeah, I agree, and those are all good arguments for Gerrit. But all I was saying was, let's judge Gerrit first, the mailing list, on the merits of patch reviewing. Let's not say we have to go with Gerrit because we also need the continuous integration if we can get that out of the way. So let's just, all I was saying was, let's judge the patching mailing list, single, multiple, separate patching list, whatever it happens to be, versus Gerrit or some other tool on the merits of those tools, rather than saying about integration, because I'm sure we can manage to get that continuous integration out of the way. That was all the point I was making.
Sam, I think there was very good comment that the quality of code review on DPDK list is very good, and someone made that comment. And I think we should not mix that. Okay, we need a CI. It doesn't mean that we need to decrease the quality of the patch review. I mean, I'm both following DPDK, some kernel net dev, and some other things on Quagga, which has, let's say, right now some issues, but still to keep on the good quality, both on the kernel and DPDK. And I think there was some good comment from Thomas from Greg that good patch reviews usually is on the main list. Unfortunately, that's the best way it works today to keep good qualities. And then we need to start from that and check how to plug a CI. So I see a screen, so maybe Thomas, you'll have some comments, but please don't try to mix the CI with the quality of code review. It's two topics we need to solve to manage both.
Okay, I won't give my personal opinion, but I just want to explain three things on the three topics, because I think there are three. First, it's difficult to follow the discussion. That's true, we have a high traffic discussion. I think it will be really hard to answer this question, but at least I know that some projects like the kernel are using some tools, some web tools, to see what's hot in the project. Or maybe, I know the new mailman has some option like voting for the thread, and you can see which thread is important. Or another way, maybe we can have an account like in Patchwork and register to some thread, so you can easily follow some threads. That's just some helpers we can think about. The other topic about the review, I would tend to trust the maintainer doing huge work. And I think one of the maintainers doing a good work is Greg Hartman. Maybe you don't know it. He is managing a lot of patches in the kernel. He maintains the stable release and so on. And recently he gave a presentation on this topic. He was explaining why the patches work largely better than Gerrit and other tools. You can, I'll send the link if you want on the mailing list. So you can take an opinion on it. And on the last topic for the continuous integration, because yes, I agree we have to separate the topics. I just want to show you the current patchwork. We use patchwork for the reviews. There is a column with the act by, review by, and tested by counters, and another, the ART column, and just after that one, there is another column, SWF. It stands for success, warning, and failure. So currently it is 0 in the column because we are not filling it, but when we have some good testing platform, we can fill this column and we'll see what goes wrong. It is just some counters, but when you click on the patch, you can see which tests are failing and understand why.
I have a question regarding performance results.
Okay.
What are the plans to publish it? Like when is it expected?
Actually, we are planning to publish some NIC performance for this release 16.11, the RFC 2544, the NIC performance, and yeah. So, okay. Vincent.
Sorry, I should have checked it, but I didn't. Do you have some jitter benchmark on DTS and zero loss cases?
Actually, current most cases for the throughput, not check the jitters or something. Yeah, since we will isolate cores, we will disable the Linux kernel interrupt, so it's relatively stable. And,
no. It's we have seen at 6 many issues with jitters. I mean, a lot of tunings are needed at the kernel, sometimes at the BIOS. I will not talk about some server vendors. I will not give any names, but they have some bad SMI sometimes that create some issues. So I don't know. Maybe at some points we'll need from Intel some command line tools, because it's not just DPDK. To monitor what's happening on the CPU cores. It's really a call to Intel brothers and DPDK. We are completely blind on the system. Linux reports some information, but out of Linux we are blind, so we see some jitters and we are unable to explain to customers why the jitters. We see some packet loss, we are not able to explain why packet loss sometimes. And from the DTS we were checking, it was not zero loss because some percentage of loss was accepted.
Doesn't PowerTop cover that?
Sorry?
PowerTop.
PowerTop? What part of PowerTop would you use for that?
I thought it would give you an insight as to what the core state was, whether...
No, it's not. It seems it's not just core state. It's not the change of C states that sometimes creates annotances.
So, okay.
It's the BIOS doing the SMI and for some add-ons. So there are white papers of the one vendor, basically how to disable this stuff.
But I don't want my customer to read the white papers.
As to the performance testing, it's much related to your platform settings, and actually we have some NDA performance report will list very detailed information about the BIOS, the command line, and everything. So it will different if you are using different platform. Last one? Sorry.
I'm going to keep it very short. So I would agree with Vincent. We also see quite a few issues with CPU jitter. We worked within the FDIO with people who want to contribute, and it is hard. The tooling is not there, and both the telemetry tooling and also the measurement tooling. The stuff happens, and it impacts pretty much all configurations. So that's not just DPDK centric, it's generally processing packets at high rates. You know, and I think it would be good really to have a set of tools so that we can use the SUT or DUT as a black box. Hence the questions about latency measurements on the per packet with high accuracy. I guess Paul can comment on that in the next talk. But also telemetry and being able to automate the way to see what's going on in the machine from the CPU jitter perspective.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can have an offline talk for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Qian.
Okay,
Great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.